Hi guys, it's Shirley Becker and welcome back, or rather I should welcome myself back because I've been gone for so long. I'm not consistent, not regular, and I think, to be honest, this whole making videos and specifically editing is so incredibly time consuming. Putting in all that work is only really justified and warranted if this is your full-time thing. I personally can understand how it can become super difficult to dedicate that time. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm probably just too lazy to do it. And sometimes I just really, plain and simple, I can't be bothered. But then I have been getting like so many nice messages from you guys who say you watch my YouTube videos and you say it helps, specifically the Cambridge ones, and it just motivates me to kind of make videos to continue to help people, because sometimes you don't realize that your videos are actually impactful and people do actually take things away from them. I suppose today I felt like, wow, there are people who genuinely benefit from this. I should really be more bothered. Today I decided I wanted to make a video talking about life after Cambridge. I think there are a lot of people who do an excellent and phenomenal job at explaining what life is like in Cambridge and how to get to Cambridge. There aren't that many people who talk about what life is like after Cambridge, and what the benefits of going to Cambridge are, and what kind of the reality of being an Oxbridge, I should say, graduate is. And so I thought it'd be a useful video to really give you guys an insight into whether Cambridge is worth it, I suppose, and what your real intention should be in going to Cambridge. People often have this perception that going to Oxford or to Cambridge, well-renowned, well-respected, and recognised institution, instantly means that your life is set, the world is your oyster, you'll encounter no problems, you'll encounter no struggles, no difficulties. A misconception. Going to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, you're gonna have a realistic life where you're gonna have to put in the work, you're gonna have to put in effort, you're gonna have to have the same amount of drive in order to yield results. Before graduating, I wouldn't say that I had a firm idea of exactly what I wanted to do. The idea of going into finance in general is quite popular. I became intrigued with the idea of going into finance. I didn't know specifically what I wanted to do. When you don't study a particular subject but you want to go into that industry, it becomes much harder to identify the subtleties, the different roles, the different demands within that industry, and so you kind of become a bit of a generalist, which is what I definitely would say I was. It's like, I kind of want to go into finance, I think I might want to do something to do with consulting, but I'm not too sure. Being not sure is absolutely fine. I think we live in a day and age where there's so much pressure to know what you're doing, to have things lined up for you already, and always seem busy, always seem on track, always seem like you're on path. Before graduating, I definitely knew that after 3 intense years, and let me tell you, they were intense years. I cried so many times. During those 3 years, I lost so much confidence in my academic ability. I probably should tell stories about like my actual journey at Cambridge, because I think people often share the very positive side of it, but there is a very hard side. I never didn't want to be there, and I never wish I didn't apply. I never wish that I wasn't given that opportunity, but it is so intense, so difficult, especially if you were one of the people that were kind of good at the GCSE, really good at the A-level. Cambridge can often be the first time that you think, wow, like, am I actually incapable? Like, what is wrong with my head? And I questioned that so many times. I genuinely thought at one point that I was the most unintelligent, useless balloon in the world. I suppose I can tell stories. Yeah, I think in this day and age, there's a lot of pressure to kind of always be knowing what you're doing. And I knew that I did not want to have that pressure on me. I didn't want to have that pressure on me. I felt like after 3 intense years, I definitely wanted to take a break. Bearing in mind that once you start working, if that's a path that you're going to go on, you're probably not going to retire until you're 65. If this is the last time that I'm going to be able to dictate how long my holiday is, if this is going to be the last time that I'm going to have total and complete control over what I do, when I'm doing it, what time I wake up, until I'm 65, then I'm probably gonna take the absolute mick doing it. Firstly, after Cambridge, I went to Thailand with my friends Frida and Shakila, which was an amazing time. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably have seen so many pictures. Back to the UK, I came back to go to Mabel, I came back to graduate. Not long after, I went to New York with my family, which again was an amazing time. And then I went to to Turkey, and then I went to the Netherlands, and finally I chilled. And finally I thought, okay, Shirley, right, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Anyway, let me stop blabbling and actually get on to the part where we discuss life after Cambridge. So, as a Cambridge graduate, I can tell you that having graduated from such an institution does definitely come with some kind of, I don't know if I should call it undeserving, but some kind of respect from people who did not go to the university. Once you are part of that bubble, you start looking at yourself as like, this isn't that big of a deal. But from the outside, people definitely give you some respect, which is why I almost wanted to say that it was undeserving. Yes, I understand that it was difficult, but I don't feel that people need to look at that achievement as if that makes me somewhat more excellent than someone else or anything like that. But I definitely would say that graduating from Cambridge does come with a respect from people. I suppose you could look at that as an advantage. Going into a traditional career, I would say as a Cambridge graduate, another advantage is that you do almost every time you apply get an interview. I've never been on like the recruitment side of things. From what I know from people who are on that side of things, there are two things that can really put you at an advantage: your academic history as well as your experience. Seeing as I'm just a recent graduate, experience is ruled out, and so I'm left with the advantage being what academic institution I graduated from. From what I've heard from people who are on the recruitment side of things, people just tend to pay attention to applications that come in from well-recognized universities. That is an advantage. Now, going into the realistic side of things, a lot of people have this idea that you're gonna walk into any job. You're gonna milli rock into these jobs, which is not the case. You still need to recognize that these people are going to be paying you thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of money, of real money, and in return they want real, genuine skill. So if at this stage you don't have the skill, just because you went to Cambridge doesn't mean you're going to get the job. Just like everyone else, you're going to have to prove that you're adequate and you're competent and you have the skills that are required for the job. Definitely shouldn't have this idea that it's going to be easy or easier just because of what institution you went into. You will face rejection, you will be offered places, you will face successes, but like the first thing I said, you will face rejection. If you don't have the skill and you're not suitable, you're not going to get the job just because you went to Cambridge. That's kind of a good lesson to learn so that you can reflect on what skills you do have and what industry they're potentially best placed in, or what kind of role they're best placed in. And I think that experience only helps you kind of better identify what things you're good at and what things you might need to work on as well. But I definitely just wanted to address that misconception that I think a lot of people have. It's not like that whatsoever. If you aren't right for the job, you're not gonna get the job. I think a lot of people have this idea that being a university student versus being in the working world are two completely different things. People have this idea that being a university student is an easy life, you don't get as tired, you have so much more freedom, blah 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 blah. I can say for myself that I have a lot more energy, a lot more freedom, a lot more time being in the working world as opposed to being a Cambridge student. The thing that I was looking forward to the most was being able to go to bed without still processing what was happening today and thinking about the ideas of the things you have to do tomorrow. I think with working, when it's 5:30, is home time. I'm on my lunch break. How can I learn through lunch? Whereas when you're studying, it never ever stops. You're eating but you're still thinking about, oh my god, I'm so behind. You're sleeping but you're still thinking, oh my god, I'm so behind. You're resting but you're still thinking, I shouldn't be resting, I'm so behind. And so I think particularly being a graduate from an institution that pushed you so hard, that made things very challenging, very difficult, other things relative to that seem not that arduous. Cambridge sets you up well for stresses that you might encounter in real life, for time-consuming projects that you might be working on in real life. So are there any disadvantages in going to the University of Cambridge or going to Oxford? And I think this is something that's particularly important to address, because I think it's really nice to flower everything and make everything sound nice and make everything sound all dandy, but I think failing to mention sort of the other side can be really damaging to people who don't expect it. For me, the biggest disadvantage, and I wouldn't really say disadvantage because I don't like to think of things in that way, but I think the biggest downer about attending a university like Cambridge was GCSEs I didn't struggle with, A-level I didn't struggle with, A2 I didn't struggle with. Everything kind of just seemed as a little bit of a step up from the previous thing. I personally found these things very easy to approach, and I knew, not that I knew everything, I knew how to know everything. I knew how to revise, I knew how to practice exams, I knew how to approach. Being dumped into the University of Cambridge, I knew beforehand that I wouldn't know how to approach this new way of learning and this new sort of exam style, because I knew it wasn't going to be a continuation of A-level. I knew it was going to be a completely different thing. So I was aware of what was coming for me. Being so kind of unfamiliar and uncertain of how to best approach it and what the best study techniques are, what the best way of practicing exams are, how to get the best out of your supervisors, how to get the best out of yourself, and taking such a long time getting better at doing exactly that, I think was so incredibly damaging to my academic confidence. I never at once thought, okay, it's completely impossible, this is a lost cause, lost hope. But I definitely did just think, like, what is actually wrong with me? Like, what's actually wrong with me? Like, actually, I genuinely thought I had problems, like understanding things or picking things up quickly, despite success at GCSE, despite success at A-level. And I'm not saying that I'm one of those people who it's like, I never knew that I could struggle. Like, I knew it was coming for me. I knew I was going to struggle because I recognized that the approach I had at GCSE and A-level were only applicable to GCSE and A-level. But having said that, I suppose I didn't realize how much of a lack of an understanding I could possibly have. And coming to the realization, it was so incredibly damaging to my academic confidence. I never lost hope in terms of my life, but I just thought, like, wow, like, rah, Shirley, like, you're actually stupid. So I think having that lack of confidence in your academics kind of drowns the rest of you out a little bit. When there are opportunities that are available to you, you kind of start doubting, you know, if that is really for you, if you should really bother. I think it can just put a negative energy and a negative mood on you in terms of even trying. And I think that's, for me, what was the biggest disadvantage. I felt like if I went to another university where things were at a slower pace, where I could have the time to enjoy and indulge in my subjects, I would in turn do better, and I would in turn enjoy it more, and I would in turn never have lost any confidence, and in turn that negative energy wouldn't be spewed all over all my other activities. I say disadvantage in quotation marks because I don't think it's really a disadvantage as such that it holds you back in any way. If anything, it holds you back temporarily, but I think you have to be really strong in recognizing that there's a whole life beyond Cambridge. Like, the amount of times I had to tell myself, like, this is not life, like, everyone is so crazy to just be the best. This is not even real life. As soon as I go to London, everything is so super different. So I think taking yourself out of that situation is so important if you start feeling that way. But also recognizing that I've always been super confident in myself. I've always known that if there's something I want to do, I will just do it. Like, I will just do it. Like, it will always work out in the end. I think remembering that, for me, is why I fail to see it as like a permanent disadvantage, because it hasn't held me back, but it's just been so frustrating to have all the tears, to have all the doubts, to have all the sad crying moments that I've had. In that sense, I would say that isn't positive, so I therefore have to categorize it as a disadvantage. For that reason, because it is so intense and so much pressure and can be so stressful, unless you just happen to find everything so easy and so manageable, applying for the reason that you're gonna have an easy life afterwards and you're gonna walk into anything afterwards is the wrong reason, because that's not true. That's not the reality of it. And so is it then really worth all the stress, all the pressure, all the self-doubt that you might go through during that time? No. So my advice is that your genuine intention for applying to such an institution is because you love the subject so much, because you want to learn so much about your subject, you want to go into depth that another university might not offer. You want to be surrounded by people who are just as hardworking and as passionate as you. That should be the reason why you apply. If you're applying because you think that sets you up for life, well, it's not gonna. So you've wasted your time and you've cried a lot during lectures. I'm gonna go now. I feel like I've spoken so much, but I thought I would just say hi again. I don't know when I'll be back, but follow me on Instagram. I love taking pictures. Add me on Snapchat because I add every single one of you back. I love talking to you guys and knowing that I'm actually being useful to someone. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel because like I make videos like once every 5 months. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments like what you thought of this video, if it was useful, and I'm gonna go shopping now. So see you later. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.